Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode number 17. You're not going to like this lesson, but that's okay. Jesus also found something that he didn't like that's in our lesson today. So, Jesus finds out something about mankind. He knows it before he just says it. It's a story from John chapter 2, and it points us long term towards the Savior. Listen into this. This is John chapter 2, verse 23. Now, when he was in Jerusalem at the Passover feast, many believed in his name when they saw the signs that he was doing. So it kind of starts with the rainbows and puppy thing here. Good news. People believed. John is about belief. The whole theme of the book is about belief. And here we have good news. The signs that Jesus does, which signs are for belief, basically, result in belief, at least some sort of belief. So let's keep following the story. But Jesus, on his part, did not entrust himself to them. So these people that theoretically believed, Jesus responds by not entrusting himself to them. Here's the reason. Because he knew all people and needed no one to bear witness about man, for he himself knew what was in man. So the result is Jesus does not kind of reciprocate the belief relationship. He doesn't entrust himself to them. So our belief is entrusting ourselves to Jesus, and then we find out here that, of course we should do that. It's great for us. We move an inch, God gives us all these great benefits. We move an inch, he gives us a kingdom. And the wonder of the gospel is not that we establish a relationship with God. The wonder is that he responds and establishes a relationship with us. So when we, start a relationship with God, we upgrade, we get a kingdom. Well, he has to come all the way down. He has to lower himself. He has to empty himself. And that's the wonder of our contact with God, is that he even wants to. So the new and old believer can say, I know God, but I'm also known by God. Galatians 4:9 says, but now that you have come to know God, or rather be known by God. So it talks about this two-way street of relationship. So we are imagers of God in many ways, but this interaction highlights a way that we are not like God. And here's the point. We have an evil core, an evil streak. Genesis 6:5 says it most harshly, I think, which is really dramatic. The Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intention of the thoughts of his thought was only evil continually. So God looks at man here and says, wait, there's a wickedness, there's an evil, there's a nastiness, and it's so great that it affects every intention all the time. My little soundbite is, every intent is only ever evil. And then verse 6 from back in Genesis 6:6. And the Lord regretted that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him to his heart, appropriately so. And the Lord said, so he considers this option, I will blot out man whom I have created from the face of the land, man, animals, creeping things, and birds of the heavens, for I am sorry that I've made them, period. Then verse 8 comes, but Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. And God starts this rescue process with Noah, and then eventually with Jesus. So I am going to relate to you, even though you have an evil core. That's kind of one of the essence of the Bible. So I've said before about that passage in Genesis, if you don't understand that one passage of the Bible, then the other 1,000 pages of the Bible will not make sense. So here Jesus is telling us in this story now in John that he understands the Bible, that he understands what happened on page 6 of the Bible, and he understands what can happen in the messy process of belief. So this evil even affects our belief. So here's the bad news that we discover now about belief, is that some who say they believe don't end up believing. So some people, they come for the show, the signs, rather than for the person, or they come for the benefits rather than the relationship. So they come for the wrong reasons rather than the right standing. Now God understands this. This is what this passage is telling us, is Jesus understands the lack of sincerity or the duplicity. John 2:24, back to our passage today. But Jesus on his part did not entrust himself to them because he knew all people, and needed no one to bear witness about man, for he himself knew what was in man. So the question for God is, how do you interact with a people that is evil and has evil? Well, the answer is carefully. And so I ask you, dear listener, how do you interact with people that are evil? Well, your answer is also carefully. Let's say you're entering a business relationship, or joining a church, or submitting to anyone, or getting married, or raising a child. How do you do these things? The answer is carefully. So Jesus knows what is in man. And he was there at the beginning, and he's been proxy to every life of every man, of every woman since the beginning of time. So he knows that we're evil. He knows we have at least an evil streak, if you want to say it, in a kinder way. I was thinking about the Jerry Maguire movie, and there's this great scene. So the setup is this guy and this girl. They have, typical, difficulty and betrayals of one another. And it's a human fallen relationship, and it's just marked with disappointment. And then comes a point near the end of the movie, and it's like this moment: are we going to be in relationship? And it's the darkest moment. It looks like they're never going to have it because of the evil and the hurt and the fallenness and the sin. And when it looks the darkest, when it's the most hopeless, the guy shows back up, and he opens his mouth, and he starts to try to explain himself. And she says something like, "Shut up, you had me at hello." And I think God is almost like saying that today is you evil man and woman, I'm showing up. I didn't have to, but I'm showing up. I didn't have to turn to you in the garden. I didn't have to stay in relationship. I didn't have to rescue with Noah. I didn't have to rescue with Joseph and the Egyptians. And now Jesus says, I didn't have to come down here and finish this. But here he is, now interacting with the evil that affects everything. And tragically, the sober thing about today's passage is that this evil streak even affects our ability to believe. It even impairs that. It affects our ability to believe. So we are going to need help, even with belief. But here's the great news about this story, is this is chapter 2 of John. It's not over. It's not hopeless. He stays in here. So come back tomorrow, please, and hear one of the greatest passages in the entire Bible, John chapter 3. Thanks for listening.